Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, overwhelmed Christians who want to instead move into freedom, abundance, and peace. I'm Liz First, and this is my husband Evan.
Hello.
Who's lucky I didn't just kick him.
So many threats from you at the beginning of the show. I was just going to say, and away from Franticity, because I missed that.
Oh, okay.
I think you only said it a handful of times, but it stuck with me.
Okay. So move away from franticity and overwhelm.
Yep, and into peace.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So.
It's Friday.
It is Friday. Yes. And this week we are talking about the holidays because they're coming.
Yes, they are. They are approacheth.
Yes, exactly. Yesterday we talked about connecting with people. And today, since it is Friday and we're working through the CSCs, we are going to talk about being complete. Hopefully you guys have lots of information about being complete since we just talked about that last week.
Today specifically, letting go of preconceptions. Letting go of...
Nostalgia.
Sure, that's a good one.
That's kind of what I think of. What?
You have this determined look in your eye. You will let go of nostalgia.
Well, that's what I think of when I think of the holidays.
Yeah, because you're a Grinch.
Shush! You are such a punk.
It's so funny though. You're not a total Grinch though. Like we go look at this Christmas Village thing that's not too far from us and ride the carriages and we drive around, look at Christmas lights. We love all this stuff. Just certain things that are extra Grinchy about. But
yeah.
anyway.
Christmas Day.
Sure.
The pre-Christmas stuff, not so much.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about how, we talked on Friday or maybe Thursday last week. Someday last week, we talked about being stuck in the past or the future instead of being in the present. And I feel like that is kind of the essence of the holidays right there.
Yeah. Yeah, we touched on that earlier this week too, like how we're constantly trying to make it the best Christmas ever, or we're trying to recreate some intangible thing about Christmas from our past, and it just never really happens.
Yeah, I feel like, when everybody talks about the magic of Christmas, what they're really talking about is this feeling, like the way that you felt about Christmas when you were a child, you should be able to feel that now.
Yeah. And you can't.
Well,
what?
You said you can't or you can?
Cannot, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have exactly the same feeling because you're not the same person.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that we spend the whole week talking about planning ahead and preparation. And now today we're going to talk about not being in control.
Yeah.
Because I think they're both true. Like
we talked about it on Tuesday too, with surrender.
Oh, that's right. But we want to be ready and as planned as possible. But like we said, plans with an open hand.
Right.
I think that's the key because they're going to change, especially when we're dealing with a larger group of people.
Yeah.
And if you have anyone in your family besides you, your plans will probably change. And that's all right.
Even with you. I mean, we talked before about years when we've all been sick. And sometimes those have been really fun Christmases when we're just like sick at home and watching movies and I don't know.
Yeah, it's right. But there's still that thing that's like, oh, this isn't really Christmas, is it? I mean, how can it be?
Yeah, it's so interesting to me how I feel like that's a big part of what drives the need to complete an entire checklist. Like, we must decorate a tree. We must have Christmas cookies. We must go to XYZ, whether it's the Nutcracker or some other a Christmas pageant,
Drive through the Christmas lights display, go get hot chocolate and sing carols or something.
Right. Like there's like this mental list we all have of what makes Christmas Christmas. And we talked on Monday about, sitting down with your family and saying, what are the things that really make Christmas Christmas for you? And then taking everything else off of your list.
Yeah. I think that's why the Peanuts Christmas special is so good because they go through all that and then Linus reads those verses about Jesus being born at the end, and it's pretty powerful. And it's just like, oh, geez, we can just slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big show. And, we've been talking about being with people, the people that you see at Christmas, whoever that is, whether it's just some friends of yours or some family you don't see often because they live far away or whatever. Those are important connections. We always lived far away from our extended family growing up. So it was a time of reconnecting there. And, but it was also kind of just like, well, I know these people. They're my blood, but there's a lot I don't know, because I'm just not here for the day in, day out stuff. And yesterday we were talking about, being intentional in those gatherings, those meetings, and asking questions. I think that's such a big part of this is because when you were asking the question, from Uncle, whoever you said it was.
Larry. No, it wasn't Uncle Larry. Who was it?
The fishing uncle.
Yes. I don't even remember who it was.
When you get more to the like who he is aspect of fishing, of like, oh, did you grow up on the ocean, or you really love fishing, don't you? Like, what is it that's so great about it?
Right.
You're giving away the control then and letting him, but you're also taking in and you're learning, and it's a powerful thing. You're growing closer.
Right. Yeah, and being present in that moment is so key. And that was one of the things that was so transformative about this principle, at least for me. I used to think that martially, if we're going to talk about fighting, that having a plan was what made you a good fighter, like knowing certain moves or, I don't know.
Being strong, maybe.
Yeah, different things like that. But then recognizing that when you are operating on muscle memory, the only way that works is if you disengage your brain and you're fully present. You're just responding to what the other person is doing. And a good relationship works the same way. Like, just like a fight, if you want to have a relationship, you kind of have to disengage your brain from the, okay, he's going to say this, and now I'm going to say this back. And after he says that, I'm going to say, he'll say this, and just having this whole conversation planned out in your brain and then trying to reenact it and force it to go the way you want it to go. Or even planning ahead of time, this is what I'm going to say as soon as this person stops talking.
That's such a bad technique, but it's so tempting.
Right. And the only way to really build relationship is to let go of all that and just be in the moment. Just respond to what they say versus planning 5 steps in advance. It's really hard.
It is. It's a lot more unpredictable because you're just there in it. There was I don't know if it was the Babylonian Bee or the Onion, but there was a headline, I think, from this week about man in conversation already has entire sentence planned out for the next lull or something like that. But then you're not actually in the conversation; you're in your head.
Right.
And that's not a complete way to interact with your surroundings. You're kind of, you've quarantined yourself off into your mind, and you're just like gonna fire off something. Not actually being present.
It's kind of like that principle that the more you try to hang on to it, the less of it you have. So the more you try to hang on to control, actually the less control you have, because you're subject to the whims of everything around you versus being able to just respond as things go.
Yep. And we can't just respond and like have that kind of ebb and flow and, kind of sensors up type thing if we don't. I've wrote radar up, but have our sensors up to be like looking for things to kind of pounce on and be like, oh, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
Or to kind of have an intentional conversation instead of maybe this, like we said, the same conversation that you've had 100 times already. Especially with people you don't see often. I think that there's more chance of that happening.
Right.
Although, there's some people that I work with, where it's not the exact same conversation word for word, but it's very similar.
Hot sauce?
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking of?
There was, years ago, there's some people I worked with, and to talk about hot sauce almost every day at lunch. And how good different ones were, and this one's hot, and this one tastes better, and it's just like, every day we can talk about this. But so it doesn't have to just be people you only see every once in a while.
And I think that same principle goes back, going back to the nostalgia thing, like happiness and the the magic of Christmas, the harder we try to grab onto that, the less of it we actually get. As soon as that becomes our goal, we're not going to get it. I just think it's so interesting because, we're all looking for Christmas magic, whatever that means. But the more we're like, I got to find this Christmas magic, and the less of a mind frame we're in to be able to experience anything. Like, we're more focused on grabbing this intangible thing than we are. It's kind of like the people who are so focused on recording events. It was really interesting. They did this study about how people experience things, and they found that people who got out their phones, to like videotape, or what do you call that?
Videotape. You're old enough to say videotape.
Okay. Fine. So people that got out their phones to video a performance, record a performance, whatever, of an artist had less enjoyment than the people that just listened to it, because they were actually experiencing it. And these people were like, I'm gonna record it so I can remember it forever. But the people that actually just listened did remember it for longer because they experienced it.
That's a good point. Yeah, they're already going into the future and they're like, I'm going to want to watch this later, or I'm going to want to show it to somebody who missed it.
Right.
My friend's not here. I want to show him how cool this was. I mean, look up on YouTube. There's 1,000 concert videos that people have filmed with their phone. It's awful to listen to. It's not a good memory to store.
Right.
That's a great point. And who are you going to show that to later? I mean, I guess.
Right. I just thought that was so interesting. And I think we do the same thing with Christmas. We're so interested in trying to create something that we actually end up missing out on experiencing anything.
Yeah.
There's a difference between those two things. And the magic that we had when we were kids was experiential. It wasn't based on creating something. So by definition, the more you try to create something, the less likely you are to experience that magic, whatever it is that you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think that gets us into our, like, that frantic brain is right there in the frantic brain where you can't be present, you can't solve problems, you can't react well. You're just stuck in the grind at that point. We've talked about that a lot, but I think we can definitely do that with this.
Oh, totally. Yeah, the holidays, with the stress that comes with them and with the I got to get all this stuff on my list done, it does shut off your ability to be creative and to just enjoy. The other thing I wrote down is that as believers, part of the magic of Christmas is really remembering that Jesus is the reason for the season. I mean, we say that all the time, like it's this lovely little catchphrase, but I mean, how often do we take time at Christmas just to sit and bask in the wonder of the fact that Jesus came to rescue us? I mean, I personally, for Christmas, I like to celebrate Jesus's life, and then at Easter I celebrate Jesus's death. But the idea that Jesus came and lived a perfect life so that he could give us his perfect record. I mean, he suffered for 33 years on the earth, being tired, being hungry, being a baby, and,
Yeah,
they
were refugees. They were, not rich, not a glamorous life. And then even as an adult, persecuted by the religious leaders. I mean, he was a rabbi, persecuted by rabbis.
Yeah, and not having, he says foxes have holes, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. I mean, just the day-to-day stress that he went through in order to live a perfect life, to give us his perfect record. We're so blessed to have that. And sometimes we forget that in all the craziness of Christmas.
Yeah, and I think that's, even we have so many things that try to bring that point home. This Christmas pageant that we like to go to, it's pretty, they always have that in there, but it's tucked in a way into another hour and a half of just spectacular, lights and music and animals, and you're just like, I mean, that's smoke and mirrors and everything.
Yeah,
it's it's a good show, but then it's like, this is the point, but is that really what we're meditating on? We need to make sure we do that in our heart. We can't leave that up to the Charlie Brown special or the Christmas pageant at the church. That's our responsibility to think about that.
Right. Taking time to do that sometime this holiday season.
Yeah. And that connects us to the source of peace, the Prince of Peace.
All right. Well, Thank you so much for being with us this week. And hopefully this will get you guys a head start on thinking about the holidays. Because as we start November, I know, at least for me, I need to get my mind set in a better place about the holidays so that I don't end up being a Grinch the entire time.
Yeah.
Only part of the time.
I don't mind that you're a Grinch.
Well, good. So if you guys found this show helpful, please go ahead and share it with your friends. Thanks to everybody that has been sharing. We really, really appreciate that.
Yes.
The more people that can come from a place of peace and abundance and freedom, the better off the whole body of Christ is going to be.
Yeah, we want to spread the CSCs out and into the body of Christ. We think it's a great way to structure the Christian life.
Mm-hmm. Very biblical. All right, we love you guys, and we hope that you have an awesome weekend, that even in the midst of your whatever stuff you're doing around the house and resting and all that, you can remember the CSCs because they make every day better.
That's right. Thanks for listening.
Bye.